Hi, I'm Dr. Marianne Cintron, founder of Step by Step Dyslexia Solutions. Welcome to our YouTube channel today. I usually interview people who have dyslexia or parents of dyslexic children. And I do this so that you can be informed, you can be empowered, and it will help you in your adventure with dyslexia or with dyslexic children. And so today I have a woman who's one of our genius dyslexic adults, and I want her to share her story with you. And then she's going to tell you about the business that she actually has to help children who want to take a deeper dive into understanding your child's dyslexia. So with me, I have Trisha Cook. And come on, Trisha, welcome aboard.
Hello.
Nice to have you today.
Thank you for having me.
Would you go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience? Maybe
okay.
So
I'm Trisha Cook. Okay, well, I'm Trisha Cook. I presently live in Birmingham, Alabama, but I grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana. So I guess y'all could tell my accent. But anyway, so I'm going to tell a little bit about my story, and I do believe it all had to happen in order for me to help others. So I'm appreciative of it all now. So I grew up in New Orleans, and like I said, and went to some pretty good schools there in New Orleans, and started 4K a little later because my birthday is July. So I started even struggling then. So went to kindergarten, and they wanted to hold me back. So they had held me back in kindergarten. This was, like I said, a real good school in New Orleans. And then first grade, they wanted to hold me back again. So my mom's like, you people do not know what you're talking about. My daughter's very smart. Y'all are just aren't helping her for some reason. So because my brother, he's a little genius, 160 IQ, 4 years older, didn't have any troubles. So comparatively, she knew something was way up. So second grade, I went to a Montessori school. Y'all could see my Montessori background there. I didn't know it was a precursor of what would be happening in my future, but went to a Montessori school, and they pretty much said, she's got something going on. We don't know what it is. You need to go get her tested. So, but this was 1983. So 1983, I was diagnosed with central auditory processing disorder and a learning disability. So that school only went to second grade. But so I went to third grade in another school. Fourth grade, I ended up in another school. My mom couldn't find anybody to help me.
Isn't that something? All these changes of schools. Wow.
A lot of changes of schools, a lot of heartache because I wasn't good at making friends. I had become an introvert.
Well, sure.
And yeah. And so I also believe that the kids were picking up on the energies that the teachers were giving off and seeing how they interacted with me. And so they were like, oh, I don't interact with her, I don't know. It was really hard. It was very difficult. Believe it or not, fourth grade, I went to a military school, and yes, is one of the few private schools I could get in because the testing anxiety had set in. And so when I was switching schools to find somebody to help it, I wasn't getting into all the schools that were more desirable. But this was a military school. I actually did well. I remember I did well that year because I believe it was the structure, because the teacher would put everything would be doing that day onto the board. And I think that somehow that structure helped me. Not that they were so helping me. But I didn't tell y'all what grade I started to learn to read. So I was in fourth grade. I was 9. I think that was right. But I was 9, no matter what, when I started to read. But I had a regular tutor because I don't even know if dyslexia tutors existed then. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I had a regular tutor, so that's why I began to read. So listen, I'm trying to make a long story short for you, but I got some really important information here. So time I got to high school, my confidence was just about nil. I was retested to get into the resource room. Now the LD teacher not able to help me. I was actually in AP classes because it was never a question that you're going to go to school. But I had a lot of problems in learning Spanish, and I had gotten
Yeah.
some D's. Yeah. And my mom sent me to a college near, kind of not nearby, actually, it was kind of far from where we live. Sent me to a college, and they taught us only study skills and organizational skills. So that 2 weeks there really helped me
Hmm.
get it so I can pass. So I was passing, and I had extra time on the SAT, got into college. And so the funny thing was is like I always knew I loved kids and I was good with kids. Like I was always the one to teach when they came over. But I think my mom pushed it because she knew that's something I could do and be successful with. So it's always funny to interesting to me to think, would I have had the option for some kind of science field? Because I'm actually really good at science,
Hmm.
but all the academic didn't show that then, you know? So that's just interesting to think
It
about.
is.
Yeah, you know, but I was lucky that I got into a college there, and it was early childhood education that I went to, and it was constructivist theory, which to me is so interesting because that appealed to my brain a whole bunch. And I wasn't ready to leave college.
Tell the audience what the constructivist theory is.
So it's based on children's cognitive development and how they construct knowledge. So at certain levels, you're going to be observing them to perform tasks related to that, whatever it is, like volume, constructing number. Oh, it's so complicated. But it's also, there's a lot of, it's based off theme. So you theme up everything and you go set up the room. Like one year, the theme, it was around Thanksgiving, and I was an intern, and I set up the classroom as an Algonquin museum to study Native Americans.
Mhm.
So we made like list of how to go through the museum for other people in other classrooms to go see. So it's actually really project based too at the same
Yeah.
time, but it's theme related project based learning. So it really appealed to me, the constructivist theory, a whole bunch. But I wasn't ready to leave college yet because I think I got my self-esteem based off looks and partying and friends and having fun. That's where I got my self-esteem because it still wasn't academic. And I
Mhm.
heard that's pretty common. So I wasn't ready to leave, and I did speech and language pathology. I wanted to do that because LD was the other option, and that was going to be hitting too close to home. So I did not do that. Speech and language pathology is a little bit further from hitting home for me, so I could do
And
it.
it's more based with sciences too, right?
Yeah, I
I,
didn't think about that.
yeah, I
Yeah.
studied, I took one class in SLP because I thought I had been as SLPA, which is the assistant.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I loved it. And so much of what I did as an ed therapist overlapped. So I
Oh,
thought,
that just one class we took on the anatomy and structure of the face. I had all the students come to me for help because I put all the different parts of the face onto lists because I've learned all about list form thinking. That's what
yeah,
we have. We think in list. So I memorized list very, very well, and that's what it is. That have all the students come to me for that. So that was like a strong. It showed that's the science. Yeah, I never thought about
yeah.
that.
And it scared me because there was so much about the brain and so much about the
Yeah,
throat. And I worked with stuttering kids, but I didn't continue because I went, wow, not so much overlaps, but occupational
yeah,
therapy overlaps too, because I was
yeah.
teaching math strategies and the occupational therapist was doing the same thing I was doing to teach math
Right.
strategies. So much of this in education overlaps, but why is it so hard to help dyslexic kids? Because man, people, um, we're finding that people who are trained are so busy, they don't want to work with a lot of students. And then people who aren't trained, it's so expensive. They don't know where to go to get less expensive training, which is why I developed what I'm doing to provide some less expensive training for people, because the numbers of dyslexic kids are out there and they're not decreasing.
Right.
know, and um, so it's so nice that you went through college, and that's one of the things we show
Yeah.
our students, and we talk in my YouTubes. I interview other people who were successful going to college and getting the accommodations you need, because you do
It
have
wasn't, I
vision.
wouldn't have done it without the accommodations. I can tell you that right
Yeah.
now. But what's sad, you want to hear a sad story? Because I got to tell some the sad stuff because I got to tell the good stuff.
Okay. How
Okay.
the good came from the
Yeah.
bad.
So when I first got it into the LD office, they
That's learning
took me to test
disability
me
for
my
people who,
grade level.
yeah.
And so they took me to see what my grade level was right then and there. It was sixth grade, and I had what was called the imposter syndrome. I felt paranoid. I felt anxious that they were going to realize she doesn't belong here.
Mm.
So I've studied the psychology of what goes on a lot too. That's where I'm gonna be leading at the end. But so I had a lot of insecurity and anxiousness by the time I got to college, and it wasn't easy. But so I went to speech language and thought, here we go. I gotta get calm. Hold on one second. So I went to speech and language pathology for 2 years. So I was lacking 2 classes to get in the master's, which is required. So you have to have undergraduate and master's in it. And I was 4th on the waiting list to get in for the master's program. And so I didn't get into that particular school. So I went and moved straight to a big city. And there I found Montessori the second day I had moved. So she's like, I'm hiring you because you have your early childhood, but more because too you have SLP background. So I always thought, see, it wasn't a waste of money. I didn't get my master's, but it's not a waste. So I got my Montessori certification. But I had a lot of problems there because you'd be under a lead teacher. And I told her I had a learning disability, and she didn't understand it or care. She even had me practicing my handwriting because I have dysgraphia too during my break.
Mm.
She'd have me do that. So I had a lot of problems when I was first starting to teach. So I think it was like 5 years in, I started to really excel and thrive in Montessori teaching it, that you can see my background. I just fell in love, and it
Yes.
is really a levelized based learning. And yes, it is multisensory, but I'm gonna say where that's not what I take away from it is the multisensory purpose, but the levelization that's so important and the autonomy that it creates for children. Um, but so I left. No, I was still in Montessori, so I was there for 15 years in Montessori, and I decided to go for my master's as a reading specialist. When I was there, I didn't have problems learning because I think the mind maps that they were teaching us to apply to the kids,
Yeah.
where it's a little bit more excelled by the time when I was young and we used to use those simple webs. These mind maps changed my life. I feel like it retrained my brain to learn because it was using my strength to help my weaker areas of language. And it does include, like I say, list
Well, and
form
just
thinking. I've
just for
only found
the
one article on list
just
form thinking.
for the listening audience, just to let them know the mind mapping, it's like a cartoon strip. It shows
Mhm.
what's happening here, what's happening here, what's happening there. And so if kids
Yes.
can understand what the steps, the procedure is, the process, and that's why the Orton-Gillingham model, structured, systematic, sequential. It's all tied into the, I think they call it so many different things. Word webs, mind mapping. But yeah, people need to know that it's sequential and it's systematic. There's a reason why you do this first, and a reason why you do that second, and a reason why you do this third. And if this isn't successful, you need to try something else at the lower level to let it be successful.
And well, I'll have like a sporadic visual image when I'm thinking instead of a word image or thinking of words, and I'll just put it onto the mind map. So they gotta Google mind maps just because they'll see all the graphic visual
Mhm.
spatial reasoning that it allows. Um, yeah, so I was reading, retrained my brain, I believe, when I was working on my master's as a reading specialist, just discovering those. And my friend said, you need to just do Orton-Gillingham training. So I did it, and it was great. It was good.
Was it a lot
Um,
of repetition from what you learned at Montessori, do you think, or a lot
yeah,
overlapping?
a lot of overlapping between the two,
Uh-huh.
a whole lot. Which made it pretty, it was easy for me, which was good because
Yes.
was building my confidence up. So, um, anyway, what I was gonna say is, so I had retrained my brain to learn, but a couple of years later after that, I was thinking, why am I still so unhappy? Why am I still so unsure? Why am I still so insecure?
Mhm.
I've got what I've wanted. I can
Even after
read,
all
I can
that.
understand, comprehend. You're right. So I had to think about anger and shame. What anger and shame I had built up having the teachers upset with me, having had overheard my dad say maybe she is lazy, something like that. And then my brother, calling me stupid and all of these things. And I had to take myself back there again. I had to look
Mm.
at it because I know they didn't talk about SEL back then. They didn't. You don't talk about emotions like today. We have this big curriculum that are offering SEL assessments to go along with any kind of other assessments that you're doing. So
And that
you've
stands
got
for
to
social
recognize the anger
emotional,
and shame
social
learning. Yeah,
emotional learning.
learning.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
is this tied into the um mindfulness that they're teaching also? Does that overlap?
Mindfulness is part of meditation. So yeah, it's part of that. But it's just a recognizing and acknowledging the emotions that create
Cool.
the feelings,
Yeah.
of anger. Like you've just written something down, but yet you're going to go throw it away and you actually got 3 sentences on it. And now you're going to go throw it away and crumple it up.
Mm,
That's probably, you could be angry. You could be
yes.
experiencing anger. Or all of a sudden they just shut down. You're like, "Oh, that's okay. I'll read it with you." So that could be shame. They could be feeling and anger and shame can get triggered. Somebody look at you wrong, you get insecure that maybe I just stuttered over my words and did fusions. So
Mm,
it's like anything can trigger that unless you want to look at it and recognize it for what it is and release it and relieve this.
mhm.
Because if not, you're going to get older like I was and still be insecure and unsure. So I had to look at the anger and shame. Yeah. So I
Very
could, yeah,
interesting.
I'm gonna
I think there's probably a
go
lot of
next into,
there's
yeah.
parents out there. I think there's parents out there who have to really watch what they say to their children. I'm sure we have the positive parents who are always very affirming and
Mhm.
supportive, and then other parents just learning. What do I do? My child, it looks like he or she is lazy, but if they have dyslexia, I need to know that it's not laziness. So how do I motivate them and inspire them? So I think hearing this is maybe giving them some more tools for their toolbox.
Tools for their toolbox. That's exactly right. And the thing is my mom was 110% supportive. It's just the one thing my dad said. But besides that, I'm really good at evaluation skills. So I'm looking and observing patterns of how people are interacting with me, the way that their voice is, the way that their face changes, all of these things that made me highly sensitive person, and so not even how somebody acted, it's just being different, just
Mm,
noticing how people are noticing how I wasn't as strong as them academically. So that's how I was reforming my self identity, was I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough. So then I had to realize, hey, I am enough, I am worthy. So, believe it or not, with having retrained my brain, looking at those emotions, I realize all my gifts. I can do poetry well, I do
Oh,
photography well, I do drawing well. Yeah, and the sciences, I'm bringing those back where I've studied neuroscience, I've studied psychology along with education. And I just met with a medical doctor today who's going to look at my program, and she says it sounds like you got a lot of that in there too. I'll be looking at it. Um, so I brought the sciences back. But before, I didn't have the confidence in myself to do these things,
isn't that
you know?
amazing? I think that's
Hmm.
really, it's a blessing. I know there's the deeper dive of assessment that the kids need and can get. What the level I'm at, I do a pre-assessment because I'm not a medical doctor, but my doctorate in education, I have seen so much over the 23 years, like you have seen, and you can just tell by how the kids are moving and acting. If they're true dyslexic, or is there a little bit of autism in there, or even do they have ADD, ADHD? Sometimes parents know, but they won't tell you. And so your expertise lets you know. And it's interesting because I have two kind of programs I offer. And you know a little bit about my background is I offer Ortongillingham-methods. It's not a curriculum, it's a method with music. And then for the kids who, or the families who want more of the deeper dive, I have the reading program I developed, but then I have a reading program that I developed as being part of my practicum, where it's more structured and prescriptive, and it's very unique to every student versus, the first program where everybody starts at the beginning and they're taught a lot of different concepts and they grow at a fast pace. And so even with the second program, I have my students listen to music in the left ear, classical music, and I just am a firm advocate of using music with the reading program. But
Yes.
there's times when I want the parent to take a deeper dive of what's actually going on with your child. And that would you'd be the perfect person to refer them to.
Thank you. Yeah, I do have the pre-assessments. Like you said, I look at the auditory processing, the visual processing, how the ADHD affects their learning, looking a little different from what dyslexia is. I look at sensory integration issues. I look at specific language impairments, and I do check for autism if it's a pre-screening first that you want to check for, and then no diagnosis is given by myself, by the way.
Right.
So I send them to the people who they need to see, so
Oh,
they're not
okay.
wasting their time or their money going where they need to go to. But do offer the SEL, this I gotta say it, I gotta get away from the acronym of it, social emotional learning. I was checklist where we can look at, have they developed anger and shame? Hmm.
Okay. Good
Yep,
to
because it's
know.
a list of observations that are made if they are any of those things. So also I look at their gifts and strengths and learning interests. So I have that one. You would be surprised how much you can find out that you might not have known in those areas. Um,
And you
so
do
what I wanted
this
to
on
say was
Zoom
too is,
also?
yep, on Zoom. Yep,
Okay.
yep. Those are my dyslexia screenings and evaluations, I call them, if they go to my website. But what I want to say about you're saying about neurometric education. That's another name for rewiring the brain for using sound. We get sound therapy, color therapy. So I am a full believer in the sound therapy, also looking to use those frequencies to rewire the brain to access the side that's non-deficit to the side that's their their stronger area, to have them coordinate to speak to one another. So very proud that you do that. And movement, does the same. A lot of the crossing the
There's a
midline
lot, isn't
type
there?
exercises. There's so many, yeah.
Yeah.
But the main thing is when I wanted to tell you, when I'm working with kids is I do observations, being that I'm a Montessorian, of saying, oh, do I hear tapping going on? Do I see that they're starting to get red in the face? So there's more that you could do online that you didn't know you maybe possibly could see or notice. starting to stumble over words when they first start to read, having some slow cognitive speed processing, just little tiny details like that to stop it and not to keep on pushing it and to get them calm. We're going to go do a memory game. Are we going to do some breathing? Are we going to do, like you said, listening to music? So there's a lot you can do still
Yeah.
online, can't we?
Well, it's neat that there's different opportunities for parents. We need to wrap this up. So we have like 2 minutes left. Are you able
Yeah.
to, your last 2 minutes, let parents know how to reach you and what
Okay.
your message to them would be?
Okay. Have them look up and Google some of the things we talked about today. Have them try to do free verse poetry because my writing anxiety is huge, as well as my testing and speaking, reading, writing is the biggest one. And free verse poetry, Google that, because we had that list form thinking, only found one article to back it up on the phone that we think in lists, but I know for fact, and talking to hundreds of people with dyslexia, but it involves lists and it's free verse, so doesn't have a set rhyme, meter, pattern, rhythm. So
Yes.
we are good, very good at picking out and evaluating rhyme, meter, pattern, and tone ourselves. So it allows us to just go with our own natural instinct of what we're going to write. And then you can pick out, oh, look, you did a rhyme here. Oh, look, you did alliteration. Oh, look, you did such and such. Then you can pick out all the figurative language from there, but let them go with their natural free verse writing. And they can get inspired by pictures of people, animals, and nature, things like that. Because that really, starting off with that free verse, really helped me to build up to short stories in my program. It's like a whole massive amount of work.
I like to see how the
Mhm.
Ortongillingham springboarded you into this. You have the foundation with the Ortongillingham
Mhm.
training,
Yeah.
which had the foundation of the Montessori. And I had
Yes.
foundation of, I was going to create my own curriculum with Patricia Cunningham and all of the known
Mhm.
literary people 23 years ago. And then I traveled with Spire. I love Spire. I know people like Barden and Wilson. But when I was in my practicum, it was really challenging to just really develop a very unique program for one student. And if you have a private practice where you work with one student, that's ideal. But I'd like to train more people in something that is replicable. And even if I needed a sub, I could trust this person because they know my program. But you can't do that with Orton-Gillingham other than letting them know, okay, I want you to teach these vowel teams over the next month. So it's tricky having a private practice, but I want to commend you. And what's your website again for people?
Yeah, it's www.myelbert.com. myelbert.com.
Okay, that sounds wonderful. Thank you, Trisha, so much for being
Yes, thank you
here.
so much.
And I want to
Appreciate
let the audience know that one of the things that's strong on my heart right now is for parents to feel empowered to get assessments from their schools. And so I have a free downloadable letter on my website, or you can go to CintronDyslexiaHelp.com and download my free letter. All you have to do is fill it out, take it to your school, and they will give your child the assessment. And then if you need extra help, we're here for you. Trisha's here, I'm here, there, and we could give you more people that can help you. But let's get you started. Let's get your school assessing your child so that they will pay for the intervention. And then also, if you want some kind of pre-assessment prior to the school's clock, because it will take them 50 days to do that assessment, reach out to me and we could, have a discovery call for 15 minutes or so, and no charge for that. So thank you, Trisha. And I want to thank the audience for being here. Again, I'm Dr. Marianne Cintron. If what we have shared today has inspired you, This Step-by-Step Dyslexia Solutions is a nonprofit organization. If you want to make a donation, any amount is helpful so we could continue to get these YouTubes out to you. Thank you so much. And I can be reached at dyslexia-solutions.com. Bye-bye now and have a blessed day.